Internet, I am Insane Lane, and after a brief absence, I am so glad to be back and watching more WestWorld. Season 1, Episode 5, Contrapasso. I'm sure I'm not saying that right, but let's break this down. We start with Ford talking to his old cowboy robot in his cave of things past. Ford's talking about greyhound dogs and the futility of running in circles. That seeing the dogs run is beautiful, but that he once had the shock of seeing it kill a cat that it had been chasing. But when it caught the cat, the dog was confused. It finally caught the thing it'd been chasing for so long, and then it didn't know what to do. I'm thinking Ford is very close to getting what he's been chasing, and is worried that it will destroy him. Or maybe that's the plan. Over to Dolores in her blue dress and in a cemetery. She's talking to Abernathy, I think it was. She's trying to find him, and is having real trouble focusing in on the scenario with Logan and William. They've all arrived at the outlaw town, and Dolores has started talking to herself. That's not a good sign, whether you're a human or a host. As they walk through the town, I love the subtlety of all the vultures overhead, and that Logan is fazed by nothing. And even Dolores is surprisingly calm here, saying it's beautiful in its own way. And then some exposition. Logan fills us in that the park is in very real financial trouble and may be subject to a takeover from Logan's company. I really want to know what company that is, and random thought, is Logan related to Black Hat Guy? There's some threads there. He talks about the opening of the park, how it was a partnership, but right before the opening, one partner killed himself. Logan's looked into it repeatedly and tried to find out all about it, who the partner was, what really happened, but he's come up empty. Then they see some soldiers, and Dolores somehow knows about them. They're ex-Civil War soldiers that are now mercenaries for hire. Apparently at the very far edges of the park, there's a war game, and Logan wants in. I find it interesting that he says he's never made it that far before. This brings up some questions for me. What stopped him? If that's what he wants, then shouldn't the controllers have made it happen by now? I mean, he seems to have been coming here for a long time. Did he run out of time in the park? If so, why not just buy more time? Do you have to start the game in Sweetwater? Or can you start from out here and increase your odds of getting further out? I think that covers it for now, but there definitely needs to be some answers there. Finally, we catch up to Black Hat, and he's toting a nearly dead Teddy and Lawrence. He says an old friend is fond of saying there's a path for everyone, and reveals that he likes Lawrence because Lawrence treats him real and straight. No one in the real world does that anymore. Then a child appears out of literally nowhere, and is dressed in different clothing than anyone else in the area. Black Hat sends the child to get some water and kills Lawrence, saying it's Teddy he needs now, and he'll see Lawrence on the other side. Odd comment. Then over to repair and cleaning, and these guys are stupid. For real. If they are real people, how did they get these presumably coveted high-paying jobs? And how do they keep them if they're such screw-ups? They are so immature, it hurts. One guy leaves to have lunch and sex, while the other guy is alone with Maeve and a dead bird he's keeping in his locker. Random. Back to Teddy, who is alive for now, thanks to Black Hat somehow pulling off a transfusion in the middle of the desert. And he talks about the old robots, how they were perfect and built out of pieces and machines, not printed like they are now. And by the way, Teddy, your arch-enemy has your girl, so let's go. Leaving the kid looking at a dead Lawrence. Dolores is also looking at a dead body in the outlaw town, and again flashing back to the church massacre. But only briefly. She and William go for a stroll, and Dolores talks about choice and different paths. William is starting to get into the spirit of things, talking about being someone else, the secrecy of this place. But Dolores notices that he says, real world, and starts asking questions, which we of course know she shouldn't do. She should ignore any reference to the real world. He thinks, of course, that this is part of her programming. It's how she's supposed to be. Curious, inquisitive, friendly. There's a De La Das Muerta parade going on, and Dolores suddenly sees herself in the crowd. She tries to follow, but Ford's voice uses an override phrase, and she wakes up naked with Ford. And he says she's in his dream, and dreams mean everything. He keeps the theme of exploration and different paths, of wanting to be someone else. Again saying they've made a world here. And he asks if Dolores remembers how it used to be, or if she remembers Arnold. And critically, that Arnold is in Dolores, and it seems Ford is angry as he starts hurting her. He switches her to analysis mode, and she says the last contact she had with Arnold was 34 years, 42 days, and 7 hours ago. So even in analysis mode, she's lying. Also, it seems she was there when he died, and that Dolores helped him to die. That he wanted to destroy the park and used her somehow to do it. May still be using her. Ford said she's the last one left who is there, and that he's not her friend. Interesting. Why does he have it in for her all of a sudden? Why does he hate on her? Why is he talking to her if he hates her? Why hasn't he had her decommissioned and put in the basement if he hates her? I mean, seriously, she killed Arnold, supposedly. This is what we're being told. Or she was at least there when he died. So that's a pretty big what the. So to then reprogram her, I guess, and release her back into the park when she might be violent or might have witnessed a murder, we're not really sure yet. It just seems a very odd choice, especially if Ford has this animosity for her. Why does he keep her and maintain her? She's one of the oldest bots. She would take the most work to maintain, and it seems she gets tore up pretty much every day. So, again, his motivations are just so mired. You can't even. The music suddenly takes a much darker turn, becoming noticeably ominous, and Dolores starts talking to herself again, but out loud this time. Then back to Tech Repair Guy, and he's fixed the dead bird, but not quite. He stole it from another department, hoping to get a promotion. But the other guy says, forget it, you're a flunky. Just be a flunky. And Maeve is brought in again, freaking him out for some reason. Then an interesting bit about the hiring process. Here's some information I want. That they are tested and screened, of course, but the phrase, you should have been weeded out in the embryo? What? Just what? Like, even in the real world, that is just not a phrase you would ever say. Like, it's so random and so odd that I just really want to put it on the list. I swear, I'm going to rewatch every episode, and just every odd random line that just doesn't seem to make sense, I'm just going to make a list. It would be the most bizarre, out of context thing to read ever. But we're over with Logan and William now, and they finally meet the baddest of the bad guys. And it's Lawrence, except it's not. Logan wants a intro to the Soldier Boys. He wants to go play war, and this guy can get him in. But things aren't going so well, when suddenly Dolores steps up and tells not Lawrence that they're looking for something too. They're on their own mission. She's not interested in playing Soldier Boy. But he does offer to help them out. He'll introduce them if they'll pull off a mission for him. Help steal something that the mercenary soldiers want. This would get them in good with them, and it involves doing risky, dangerous, fun adventure action stuff, so they're in. And the thing I like most here, Dolores gets a change of clothes. Finally, she's wearing something other than the blue dress. Not that I don't like the blue dress. I do. It's beautiful. I would wear it myself, and it gives a certain aesthetic. But she's out in the wilds now. Come on. So yes, finally she gets her cowboy on. She even gets pants and a gun. She makes a point of saying she doesn't plan to use the gun, but damn if it doesn't look good on her hip. They arrive at the wagon they're supposed to steal, and while Logan is certainly happy to just shoot everyone and take the thing, William and Dolores try to keep things calm. But, hitch in the plan, Logan can't keep his mouth shut, so he starts getting his ass kicked, and William is then forced to shoot everyone to save him. But they did get what they came for, so introduction time. Logan gets his wish. He's in with the mercenary soldiers. He's headed to war. But first more fucking and, general drinking and whoring around, and also somebody writing this Saw Goldfinger. Not that I mind. Back to repair, and my god, this show jumps around a lot. And really, why must the bots be naked? I know I've asked that before, but I still want to know. Why are they naked? Not for their modesty, they're not supposed to have any, but the modesty of people around them. Why can they not just put, basic smocks or something on them? Following Elise, bored with life, and she sees a bot that tried to kill her. She starts following it, spooking the hell out of the flunkies because she's not supposed to be acting like that. They say something about her being out of her office area. Again, this is a line that goes on the list. It's really that big a deal when somebody just goes for a walk to a different department? Really? But she has video of that guy fucking a bot, and that's bad. For some reason. I really don't understand this point. So, people have sex with the bots. I would think that's almost a given. Like an unwritten perk of the job. And what's the harm? Keeping in mind, they think these are just programmable robots that don't remember anything and have no feelings or emotion or free will. They're toys. We have sex dolls in the real world now, and they're getting quite sophisticated. So I don't see what the problem would be that the guy takes, like, a few extra perks and gets his jollies off at work. Like, I'm not seeing the harm. I don't get why it would be such a big deal if people knew that. I'm sure it's happened before. I'm sure it happens all the time, and it's one of those things that people just don't talk about, but it happens. And for my 2 cents, I don't think he's doing anything wrong from his point of view, keeping in mind he thinks these are lifeless hunks of metal robots with no emotions, no feeling, no free will, and whose memories are erased every 12 to 48 hours. So where's the harm? But apparently this is a really big threat, and he could get in serious trouble. So she's threatening to tell, and he's gonna do what she says. She gets access, but all the data is corrupt. It's useless. But then, the bot's fingers catch her eye, and she finds a piece of tech hidden in the host that tried to kill her. She quickly shows it to Bernard. It's a laser-based sat uplink. And she's thinking corporate espionage, and that this is what caused the host to go crazy and attack her. We're back to the old town with William and co, and I gotta say, for a brothel in the middle of the desert, run by a bunch of bad guys, it's surprisingly Roman, with hints of Egyptian and even Victorian. It's completely out of place, and beautiful. But William's not too comfortable there, and Dolores surprisingly is. I mean, seriously, her character is supposed to be a farm girl virgin who's pining after the man she can't have, the mysterious stranger who leaves and comes back and is someday going to take her away. And now she's in a whorehouse. There's people naked and fucking everywhere, and the shy little country virgin is just totally cash. William decides he's had enough of this crap. He wants out of the park. He's done with it. Logan says, stop being such a goody-good. Stop being such a goody-good. Have some fun. And we finally get some real-world bio on the two of them. Wow, have I been waiting for that. William works for Logan's company and is in fact going to marry Logan's sister. But Logan, as we've established, is an asshole. So he starts berating William, saying he's nothing. He's no threat to Logan, just a middle-level executive. He keeps pushing him until finally William attacks him. For a moment. Just a moment, but it's a good one. Dolores is casually wandering around the brothel and finds a fortune teller with some tarot cards. And one of the cards has the maze on it. And suddenly the fortune teller switches to being her. She's talking to herself in the real world now. She tells herself to follow the maze, and she starts pulling a thread out of her arm, freaking the hell out at this vision or whatever it may be. And of course, noticeably, the placement of the strand that she starts pulling out of her arm is where the sat uplink was in the other bot. Could have put those scenes a little further apart for my taste. Dolores finds there is a secret plan going on. The bad guy is actually going to double-cross pretty much everybody. The nitro that they stole to give to the mercenaries, well, he's got a different plan for that, so he's going to pull a switch and stiff the mercenaries. For now, Dolores decides to make a move on William, asking him to leave with her, for the two of them to go away from Logan, away from this crazy place, the war, and just go back somewhere more peaceful, I guess. But, flag on the play, the bad guys find out about the switch, they catch Logan and start beating the crap out of him, causing William to run off and leave him there. He just leaves his buddy being beaten to a pulp, says no more pretending, grabs Dolores and tries to leave. And in a good moment, Dolores gets a chance to save the day when she shoots down some of the soldiers to save an outnumbered William. He asks how she did that, how she was able to do that when she said she couldn't use a gun, that she's not violent, and clearly she's not programmed to be violent. She says she did it by imagining a story where she's not the damsel, but the hero. They hop on the train and escape, leaving Logan behind. I think he's gonna be a little miff. They meet with evil Lawrence on the train, and Dolores briefly threatens to blow them all up, but William starts making fast friends with him, and Dolores sees the maze pattern on the coffin, but only on the one, meaning it may or may not really be there. Black Hat and Teddy get to town and get to drinking, and Ford joins them. Black Hat tells Teddy basically that Ford, first name Robert, is God. Black Hat asks, how am I doing? Am I close? Teddy asks about Wyatt and says that he's taken Dolores. Ford said he doesn't remember that part of the story, and Black Cat says he added it. Interesting. There's so much to unpack in just this brief little encounter, and it really is brief. It's so short. But there's so much in it. Clearly these two know each other. They're old friends. They've known each other for a long time, but they're not necessarily on the best of terms. There's some animosity here. And also, Black Cat seems to have been here before. He knows he's close to the end of the maze, but if he's gotten this far before, he's obviously been stopped before. And Wyatt taking Dolores. Not part of the story, huh? Really? It's not supposed to be? That's beyond interesting. Because supposedly Ford is the only one who has the power to program the storylines and control the hosts. So how is Black Cat able to add anything? How is he able to affect things from within the park? I mean, I get by his actions he could change certain things, but that seems like a huge story deviation that he was able to cause, apparently just because he wanted to, or to see what happens. But they continue talking about the park. And he says the park needed a real villain. Black Cat says he offered to fill that role. That's what he comes here to be, the bad guy, the baddest of the bad guy. Ford actually gives him credit, saying, yeah, you have succeeded in that beyond anything I could have thought of. But, why the sudden hunt for the maze, and why the urgency? And there does seem to be an urgency to Black Cat. Like, I wonder, is he dying or something? Like, he has limited time? He says he's left the real world behind. He's come here to finish this, once and for all. Black Cat doesn't answer anything that Ford asks him, but he does ask about Wyatt, and thinks that Ford created Wyatt to stop him personally. Wow. That's some ego there. He might be right, but still. He talks about how on the surface the park is just a tourist attraction. But it was created with a much deeper meaning, and I like a line from Ford about finding the moral of the story. Black Cat knows about Arnold's death, and that he tried to take down his own creation before even opening it, but no one knows why. Including Ford, it seems, or maybe that's just what he wants Black Cat to think. And also, seriously, how hushed up was this death? I get it's 30 years ago, so there's not going to be many people around who know about it. But it seems like almost nobody knows any of the details at all, and Arnold would have been a pretty prominent guy if he's one of two people opening this massive park with this massive advances in technology. He would have to be fairly prominent, wealthy, successful. So wouldn't his murder have gotten, like, a lot of coverage in the real world? Wouldn't people be able to look up the details on the internet? I mean, there has to be an official explanation for his death and the circumstances. But moving on from that, Black Cat makes a weak threat at Ford, and Teddy instantly stops him, protecting Ford. All the hosts are programmed above all to protect Ford, I think. Ford decides to take his leave, saying he'll stay out of Black Cat's way. For now. The now really spooked tech guy goes back to working on the bird again. Maeve's body is in the room. If this guy wants to be a programmer so bad, why not take classes? Like, work your way up? Why not get to know some people in programming? You know, get them to put in a good word, maybe ask for a transfer, some on-the-job training. But no, he'll just work on a bird in secret and then hopefully show it to someone and they'll be so impressed they'll just transfer him. I'm not really sure what this guy's plan is. He gets the bird working, and it flies around the room beautifully, landing on Maeve, who is sitting up, fully awake, and even knows his name. But this time, she's not panicked. She's cool now. She's got this figured, at least partially. And she says, we need to talk. End of episode. Post-ep thoughts. Tech guy wanting to be a programmer. This leans into my theory that they are all bots. He wants to be something more, something different, find a new path. Just like Dolores and so many of the other hosts, I have got my eye firmly on him. It would make perfect sense if all the tech and support people were actually hosts. I mean, think about it. They do what they're told, when they're told. You can program them to do the same thing over and over and be perfect at it every time. You don't have to pay anyone. No one quits. There's no training time or cost, no turnover, no whiny people. You can have a full staff 24/7, 365, which this place would certainly need. This would also mean a few other things. That potentially Ford is the only real person on the support side. Think about the loneliness. And is Boss Lady real? Or did he make her to deal with the board so he doesn't have to, since he seems to have little use and a high level of annoyance for them? Is there even a board? We haven't seen them to this point. We've just kind of heard of their vague existence. On the against side, Bernard has a family. He has a child, and he has a wife that we've seen him talk to, and the bot couldn't hurt Elsie. Couldn't hurt her. It tried to attack her and wound up smashing in its own head to avoid hurting her, certainly implying that she is real. We also see support people doing things like making mistakes, being creative, being perverts, having personal lives, chit-chatting. So I don't know quite who's real and who's not, but I'm sure it will be addressed at some point. I definitely hope we get more of Maeve and her prostitute friend next time. I really missed her. I love the actress. It's a great character, and I think she's very underused. We also didn't see Spec Ops guy, so don't know quite what's up with him. He doesn't seem to have too much of a story at this point. He's just kind of there, you know, with his guns and paranoia. Though, gotta say, he's probably like the most justified in his paranoia, like, with all the things going on in the park and the malfunctions and potentially the host can hurt people, you know, he's kind of justified, so it's hilarious that he comes off as, like, overly paranoid military guy, but, you know, he's like Walter Peck in Ghostbusters. He's actually right. Some things that I like, we're about halfway through the season, the storylines are getting deeper, there's many more layers being added, Ford's crypticness is like off the charts, that dude needs to come with a decoder ring. There might be outside players affecting the bots. Does this explain the odd behavior? What about the reveries? Thought they were doing it. Now there's this satellite thing. Who's behind it? Somebody stealing? What's going on here? The big question, who is Wyatt? I have no idea. Is Dolores becoming dangerous? Definitely. She overrode her programming of her own volition and acted completely outside her loop and even killed. Yes, she only killed other hosts, but still. She is learning how to control her own action. That if she imagines she is someone else, she can do new things. She can act outside of herself almost. That's gonna get fun. While the show may have opened a little slow for my taste in the first few episodes, I definitely understand that more now, seeing just how many pieces of all the various storylines are. Like, I'm tempted to start taking notes just to keep track of everything. And that is definitely deliberate. This show is designed to be confusing as fuck, and it succeeds magnificent. So I'm sure there will be a lot more confusion and contradicting things and weird cryptic statements in the following episodes. I'm very curious to see if we will actually see the maze in this season. Is it even real? But I'm sure there will be some kind of payoff to it. Until next time, I am Insane Lane, and that was WestWorld Season 1, Episode 5, Contrapasso. Bye-bye.